Hello everybody and welcome back to my Conjuration tree exploration with the Ordinator perk overhaul. First and foremost, I got to apologize if my voice sounds a little rattly or nasally or a little hoarse or rough. I am just getting over a pretty nasty cold. So I might be I might be a little tough to understand or a little rough to listen to now and then, but I'm looking forward to continuing this series and getting to the end of it, so that we can take on other series and maybe explore other perk trees in the very near future. Okay, so before we get going any further, let's take a look at the agenda for today. So what I want to do is take care of some of the more administrative stuff first. I think we have a level up to take, and then we can decide how we're going to spend our perk points on that. I have some new spell books that I picked up from the college that I also want to learn and determine how we're going to use those going forward. I think for the time being, I want to focus on leveling the illusion skill tree to see what kind of perks we can take there that will have some synergy with the conjuration tree that we've already maxed out. What else do we have here? Okay, so I think what else I want to do is I want to find a giant, and I want to kill it for the Grand Soul Gem, or for the Grand Soul, so that I could put that in the in Azura's Star before we get started on too much else. It seems that lower level souls keep getting stuck in that thing. It's kind of a waste of its capabilities, so I kind of want to make sure that we're getting a good good soul in Azura's Star for enchanting purposes before we get going on other dungeons. And then we talked about taking on Halted Stream Camp. I think I mistakenly called it Halted Steam Camp a couple times. It is actually Halted Stream Camp. And I want to take that on because there is a spell book there for transmute iron ore, or just transmute ore. And what that does is it allows us to turn iron ore into silver ore into gold ore, and then we can turn those into ingots, and then craft jewelry out of those ingots. And that will help level up our smithing skill. We can then enchant those rings to both level our enchanting skill and make some gold for training and buying skill books. We'll also be leveling alteration during the course of that as well. Okay, so first things first, let's go ahead and level up. Level 50 already, huh? Okay, we're still concentrating on Magicka. We're trying to... Did we already get 500? I think we're trying to hit 750 at this point, aren't we? I don't remember. It's been almost a week since I played, I must confess. Now, where are we going to spend these perks? We have 2 of them. Let's see here. We said we were going to focus on illusion. I think we've pretty much tapped out alteration and conjuration. We don't need much more in the way there. I do kind of want to check out this Wellock's Dormant Arcana. I know I said I wasn't too interested in this before, but there might be something hidden in there that I'm not remembering or not thinking of that could cause some synergy with conjuration or destruction or one-handed. That's another thing we haven't been focusing too much on, is one-handed, right? There are a lot of perks that we could take here that would make us stronger in terms of damage output and things like how many power attacks we can lay down before we deplete our before we can deplete our stamina tanks. Yeah. But I think we know what the one-handed skill tree is doing. It's basically going to strengthen our sword hand and add status effects and things like that to our enemies. But we can look at that once we're done with illusion here. This is what we're focusing on. So I think right away we have to take illusion mastery. That's just goes without saying. The more spells we can cast, the better off we're going to be. And now our illusion spell, or I'm sorry, our illusion skill is pretty low right now, so there's not a whole lot we can take, and I'm really not sure what's here that's actually going to make sense for us at this point. This perk allows us to activate sleeping victims to steal their dream, increasing the effectiveness of your illusion spells by 50% for 3,600 seconds. Ends up being like, what, an hour? Chance to fail and alert the victim based on illusion skill. I don't see this being a huge thing. I could see this being very nice for roleplay mechanics. Say if we were going to take on Vermina, the Vermina questline. We're sort of taking on the aspect of Vermina. I think her staff is very close to something like this. That's something to keep in mind for roleplay possibilities for a character like this, but not really too synergistic, other than just strengthening the illusion spells in general. What else? At level 30, we radiate an aura of mystical nobility that touches allied creatures and people within 40 feet. Those affected gain 20% extra attack damage and have 20% chance of a critical strike. This is great. This is probably the branch that we're going to be going for, more so than anything else. This is the most direct synergy with the Conjuration tree that we have here, I believe. We have stuff that, like the imposing presence in this whole branch, that affects enemies. Radiate an aura of mystical charisma that touches all within 40 feet. Any illusion spell you cast on those affected is 25% more powerful and lasts 30% longer. We'll have to see what kind of spells actually affect our conjured Daedra. Things like courage and rally and stuff like that could be helpful, and it would be strengthened by a perk like this. But I just don't know if it affects Atronachs at this point. Let me see here. Imposing presence touches all, not just allies, but also enemies. So this might be something worth looking into. Right now, we're going to focus on getting to level 30 of illusion, and then following this this perk branch all the way up to the top. This will vastly strengthen our summons, I believe. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and bank this perk. And we'll use that to follow up on that branch. Now, the next thing that I want to do is go ahead and learn the spell books that I bought before I came here. Let's see what we have here. We have some illusion stuff that I picked up. There wasn't a huge selection of illusion spells that Drevis, the illusion trainer and vendor at the college, has yet, because illusion spells that you can buy from vendors are actually tied to, or not just illusion spells, but spells in general from trainers that you can buy spells from, in the college are actually tied to your level in that respective skill. So for us, our illusion, our choices, our selection from Drevis, the illusion vendor, where it was very, very limited until we can level up on that a little bit, and then we can head over there and get some higher level spells from him. But Finnis has all kinds of great spells for us, as will Tolfdir as well once we get there. But for now, we'll take what we can find and see how we can incorporate this into leveling our illusion a little better. So this is Backlash. It interrupts target spellcaster. If a spell is interrupted, the target is hit by their own offensive spell. That's pretty nice, but it's very situational. We have to be going against spellcasters. It also isn't a concentration spell, so we'd have to make sure it hits and only while the target is casting a spell. So we'll go ahead and learn it. I don't know that we're actually going to use it. Chain Lightning. Now this is the one, I bought this specifically for hooking up to Spellscribe. This will give us a little more crowd management, I think. It's not going to modify the status of a lot of enemies, but it will leap from target to target on the screen within a certain range, I believe, and it does a lot of damage. So instead of just hitting the people directly in front of us, it will actually do a lot of shock damage to a lot of different enemies on all angles. So that's great. Let's remember to hook that up to Spellscribe once we get done here. Circle of Strength steals 8 points of stamina per second from hostiles inside the circle. I'm thinking this might be something nice to hook up to Okado's Recital once we start focusing a little more on the restoration tree and looking for synergies there. It'll just help us level up a little bit more, and who doesn't love a little extra stamina when you're trying to lay the smack down with repeated power attacks? Dark Vision. I don't know what this is. I really don't. But I bought it. It was cheap. It's an illusion spell, so let's try to remember to mess with that a little bit once we get out of here. Electrosphere. This is another item that I picked up specifically to hook up to Spellscribe. If I remember this correctly, I think it's a slow-traveling, well, it is a slow-moving ball lightning that strikes for 114 damage, which is a ton of damage. But I think that it stays persistent, and as it goes through enemies, it hits everybody in its path. So we'll give that a shot too at some point. Cloak spells. I got to thinking about this a little bit. And I do actually plan on experimenting a bit with the Bound Battle Axe, which is a two-handed weapon, which kind of removes the synergy between the spell sword perks in the alteration skill tree and our concentration spells with the novice level destruction spells that we've been using. If we're using a two-handed bound weapon, we still want to have the synergy with the destruction skill tree, and this is a great way to do it. So we might hook this up to Okado's Recital. It'll help us level our destruction magic a little faster, and it will also give us some things to play with when we start using two-handed weapons. So there's that. Flame Cloak, Frost Cloak, and I believe I also had Lightning Cloak. There it is. Frost Nova. This is another one. So the closer the enemies are, the more damage they take. Up to 2 times more damage, starting at 62 damage. So that's up at 124 damage, I think, which is quite a bit. It's frost damage, so a lot of the enemies that we're facing are going to be Nords, so they're going to be resistant to it, but that's alright. This still could be something great to hook up to Spellscribe. It'll give us options. I like it. Fury Spell. This is another low-level illusion spell that we were able to pick up. We might be able to use it to level our skill up, although we are level 51 now, and this only affects creatures and people up to 11, so we're probably going to have to try to figure something else there. Figure something else out there. Excuse me. Alright, Ghost Walk, this is great. We're probably going to be doing some sneaking at some point. I just don't know how we're going to fit that in just yet. But we'll get there. And this will come very much in handy when that comes around. So, looking forward to that. That's a great option to have in the toolbox there. Illusory Flames. This is the one I think we're going to be using primarily in our offhand instead of like Flames or Sparks or Frostbite. I believe that this is a concentration spell. In fact, it says concentrate to deal 30% of their current health as temporary damage that wears off after 3 seconds. So this allows us to hold a spell, which gives us all the buffs to our minions. It also does some temporary damage, which is great. So, but it does only wear off after 3 seconds. So we're gonna have to get in there and cause some permanent damage with our one-handed bound sword. But this is probably going to be our primary offhand tool that we're going to be using most of the time, and that should help us level up illusion quite quickly, I think. Incendiary Flow creates a molten stream as it passes near terrain, creating 41 fire damage for 10 seconds. The only reason I took this one is because I think that it might be a concentration spell, so let's mess around with that a little bit to see how that actually works. And this one is probably going to be our main method of leveling our illusion skill tree, at least in the beginning. This can be cast, it doesn't have to be cast in combat, which is great. I could just cast this over and over again, and especially at lower levels, it tends to level up very quickly. Or at least it tends to contribute to the illusion skill very quickly. So we'll be using a lot of that, I believe. And I'm also going to hook that up to Okado's Recital, which should help us level up even more quickly, I believe. Okay, so let's take a look at all this stuff. I know that there was some stuff in here that we wanted to mess around with because we didn't know quite how it works. Did I hook this up already? Or am I still using... Oh, I don't even have Iron Flesh. I only have Ebony Flesh. I probably have that hooked up already. Okay. Dark Vision. We did not have any idea how the heck that thing was going to work. So let's just cast it and see. It does look like a concentration spell. Okay, so it's just a night vision. A concentration night vision spell. Which I suppose is nice, but I have to somehow manually disable the E and B on the keyboard before I use it. Which is not ideal. I need to figure out some roleplay mechanic for just giving this guy Night Eye, the Night Eye power. Vampirism is great for that, but I don't know. Maybe we can just say that if we do the Vermina's questline or something like that, we'll get it. It's just gifted to us or something like that, and I just enable it in Gopher's Predator Vision MCM, and then we just have access to it. Come to think of it, I am just going to I'm going to do that now. We're not role-playing right now, so I don't feel too bad about just taking that. Give character night vision. How about that? That can be handy. Okay. So yeah, dark vision is just night vision as a concentration spell. Okay, what else do we have in here? Fear, Fury, Ghost Walk, Illusory Flames. Okay, let's make sure this is a concentration spell first. Okay, I believe it is. Staying active the entire time that I'm holding it. Doesn't seem to be draining my magicka though, does it? Probably because it's not actually affecting anybody. Muffle. See if we can actually get an illusion level up there. Oh yeah, there it goes. All the way up to 29 and we got a level up. That's nice, right? So we are definitely hooking that up to Okado's Recital. I think... Do we have a... Do we have an open slot for that already? Let's give that a shot. Kado's recital in the right hand, muffle in the left. Is it going to let us? There we go. Nice. I still want to keep Ebony Flesh and Soul Cloak active because that's just too useful right now. So that should help level our illusion quite quickly. That is good. Pale Shadow. Oh yeah, was this a concentration spell or is this just a... No, this was a one-time cast thing. Okay. What is next here? Okay, yeah, we wanted to hook up. Let's start with Chain Lightning. Here we go. And let's hook that up to Spell Scribe. Oh yeah, I also wanted to see if that spell specialization or spell mastery power stayed active, or if that disappeared after the first time that I used it. Here's Spell Scribe. Let's get that out of the way first, and we'll look for that other one. Spell stored. Great. So now... when we do a... Oh, did you see the lightning bolts come out there? So when it hits an enemy, it should spread out to other ones. Great. What was I doing? Oh yeah. So we were gonna look. Oh yeah, Magica, of course. So we were gonna look at the alteration skill tree and see what this power was called here, so that I can look for it. Arcane Thesis. Use it to master the spell you're dual casting. A mastered spell is 20. Only one spell can be mastered. Okay, so that looks like one spell can be mastered, period. Not one spell at a time. Which jives with the fact that I do not see Arcane Thesis up here in my powers list. So, we're kind of stuck with Sparks on that. So that will be our favored spell once we get through this this exploration of the illusion skill tree anyway. We just got to keep in mind that if we're gonna tweak this build for another character concept or something, and it uses bound bow or bound battle axe that uses both hands, we probably want to focus on cloaks, a cloak spell to master instead of a concentration spell. Just things like that. Okay, what else do we have here? Oh yeah, we wanted to see if Incendiary Flow was a concentration spell. Nah, it doesn't look like it. Well, it looks pretty wicked though, doesn't it? Ultimately, not useful for this archetype that we are fleshing out here. I thought there was a higher level frost spell too that it might be through the Apocalypse spell package. But I thought there was one that was a concentration spell, much like Frostbite, except it had the chance to actually freeze an enemy. That might be a Winter Mist enchantment thing on a staff or something. I'm pretty sure that it's also a perk in the Destruction skill tree under the Frost branch as well. Probably up here like Crystallize or something like that. No. No. Oh, here we go. Frost spells paralyze living targets below 25% health if they're not frost resistant. Yeah, lots of good stuff in this destruction tree. It's just, like I said before, there's not a whole lot that is actually synergistic with Conjuration or Alteration at this point. But if I were actually to flesh out a character and to use as like a roleplay series, in a full-on character concept, I would probably pick one of these branches to master and take that all the way up to the top. We don't really have the time or the perks for that. We'll have to wait till we explore the destruction tree, which I do plan on doing at some point. Okay, what else do we have as far as new spells? I think we're good using our Atronachs, our vanilla spells here, the different Atronachs that we have, and the Dremora Lord. Should actually have that favorited. I don't know why I don't. We could switch up to Dremora Champion or Dremora Honor Guard or something like this. Reducing enemy magic resistance within 15 feet is great. Yeah, a lot of good stuff up here. Extra damage for each nearby enemy. Yeah, this stuff is all added by Apocalypse. I'm trying to focus mainly on vanilla spells as much as I can, but you know, it doesn't hurt to look at the Apocalypse stuff too and make an honorable mention. By the way, this is all going to contribute toward a single video at some point in the future. I'm using this for research and to keep my channel alive while I do it, for an Ordinator Conjuration summoning guide. It's going to be a single in-depth video about the Ordinator Conjuration skill tree, specifically focusing on the summoning stuff that we've been doing here. So it'll be concise. It'll have some pointers. It's going to point out all the synergies and everything, and give a roleplay advice and things like that if you want to do a Daedric summoner character. And part of that will be little mentions, honorable mentions about Apocalypse spell packages, Apocalypse spells, and Winter Mist enchants, and Winter Sun deity worshipping effects and things like that. Although it won't be the focus. The focus are the perks. Okay, what else? Do we have anything? Oh yeah, we had the Circle of Strength, but we don't have a spell open, or a slot open for it in Okado's recital yet. You know what? We do have some extra perks that we can't use right now because we're focusing on illusion. Let's go ahead and do this Wellok's Dormant Arcana thing. Just see what that's all about. Okay, so we can hook this up to a spell type. And this is going to be like our flesh spells for armor, I would suppose. Cloak spells like our Soul Cloak that we're using, or the Flame, Frost, or Lightning Cloak that we will be using later on with the two-handed bound weapons. So either of these I feel like could be useful. Conjure Daedra, which is, I believe, counts for both Atronachs and the Dremora. Conjure Undead, which we're not using, and Invisibility, which we're not using yet. I would like to look at a guide for this at some point. I hesitate to take a Conjuration spell, just because we could cast these well in advance, and I think that there is a shelf life on any of these effects that might be cast. So I'm more tempted to take things that we're going to have hooked up to Okado's recital, either a cloak or an armor spell. We're always going to have an armor spell active, so let's take that for now. Now, should we take something that is going to affect combat, which is probably going to be things like one-handed damage, or melee damage, or damage resistance, maybe. Spell schools. Something that will actually increase certain skill-centric spells, like destruction would be great. Attributes, that would be magicka, health, or stamina. Getting a health boost would be nice, but probably not as nice as something like damage reduction. Utility, I have no idea what that is. I wonder if there's a way to go back. It would be nice to be able to boost our destruction level spells, or our destruction spells, whenever we cast a cloak spell, wouldn't it? Or not a cloak spell, but a spell flesh. And it looks like we get 3 of these. So we don't have to be too choosy with this. Okay, let's try combat first. Plus 10% attack damage would be really nice. Plus 50% armor would be great. Plus 10% magic resistance. Plus 10% chance to absorb spells. This would all be awesome. We could always use more armor, that's for damn sure. The attack damage will come as our one-handed tree gets fleshed out a little bit more, and as our skill grows. Armor is going to sort of be a flat hard cap based on the fact that the only armor we're getting is from flesh spells, so an extra 50 armor will go a long way. Magic resistance is always great. We already have a little bit of that being Breton. Okay, let's just go ahead and take armor for now. Spell schools, let's take a look at this. Plus 20% alteration duration, no thanks. 20% conjuration duration, nah. 10% destruction magnitude, that would be great. 20% illusion duration, that would be nice if we were centric on illusion, which I could see altering this build type to be, if you so chose. 10% restoration magnitude, which would be nice too if you were more of a hands-off summoner. But I think 10% destruction magnitude is the way to go there. And this is the third and final attribute, or our third and final effect that we can take. Attributes, let's see what we have here. Plus 50 max health, max magicka, max stamina, regen. And not too excited by any of those. Let's see what this utility thing is all about. Fall damage, not too interested in. 50% carry weight, nah. Water breathing, no. Highly situational. Water walking, same. Light. Does this mean like it will light an area for us? It sounds like it would have some pretty nice utility, except that I think that if you're going into a battle in the dark, you're kind of messed up. 20% enchant drain. We're using summoned weapons for the most part. If we switch to use a Daedric artifact as our weapon, then this would be very handy. But I think for bound weapons right now, that's not useful at all. 5% speed is actually great, especially because we're going to be relying on mobility a lot for our defense. I think being able to move faster would be awesome. Okay, so I'm glad I looked at that. I think that was really the last perk in this entire tree that really made sense for us. So let's go ahead and leave that behind. We're only one level away from taking another perk here, which is great. Okay, was there anything else? Any new spells here that I wanted to add? I don't think so. I think we're good, right? Let's go ahead and favorite Spell Scribe just so we can switch up if we have to. And then let's put some of these, put Frost Nova there. And Electrosphere in there too. Ooh, Inferno might actually... I'm sorry, Incendiary Float might actually be great for Spellscribe as well, because it left that big puddle of flames right in front of us. Could do a lot of damage over time to anybody right in front of us. Okay, so that's cool. So all we have to do is go into the favorites menu now and take these spells in both hands. Once we get like a calm spell or even like a an area of effect, fear or fury or something, we can hook that up to Spellscribe too, which would be awesome. Every time we throw out a power attack, we cast fury on everybody around us. That would be awesome. Be very chaotic. I love it. Okay, what's next? So we have okay, yeah, let's do the favorites thing here. So what do we have hooked up? Bound Sword. We have Flames hooked up right now. Let's go ahead and change that to Illusory Flames. So we're gonna switch Illusory Flames to hotkey 1. So we're gonna switch over to Bound Sword and Illusory Flames here. We got our sword and we got our flames. We hooked up Okado's Recital to Muffle, and we still have Ebony Flesh and Soul Cloak active on that. Awesome. Okay, so I think all that's left to do now is kill a giant for Azura's Star. Let's just make sure here that we have an empty Azura's Star to do that with. Yes, we do. So we're going to find a giant, and then we're going to head on to Halted's team camp to clear that out and get some spells. Or get the Transmute Mineral Ore spell. What time is it? 9:05 p.m. Perfect. Okay, let's go do it. Okay, the easiest one to get to right now is Bleakwind Basin, so let's go ahead and just make sure that we're ready to go first. Let's get the band back together here. I don't remember my hotkeys. God, I feel terrible about that. Alright, so we're going to want a Flame Atronach. Do we have a Storm Atronach yet? Yes, we do. That's right. Gonna go ahead and dual cast that bad boy. We're gonna dual cast a Frost Atronach. The Frost Atronach would be the drummer for sure. The Flame Atronach would be the lead guitarist. Storm Atronach would be the creepy synthesizer player. He doesn't quite have the charisma needed to play an actual classical instrument, but he's got that weird nerdy vibe that he is an electronics freak. So he can do music on his synthesizer, but he wouldn't know where to start with the guitar. The ladies don't like him so much, but they're down with the Frost Atronach and the Flame Atronach. And then, of course, the lead singer, which is our Dremora Lord. And I like to think that Connor would probably be the bass player, kind of the unsung hero of the group. He lays down the rhythm for everybody else to follow, kind of like the drummer, except he just doesn't get as much of the spotlight, and he's just fine with that. He probably also silently writes all the songs too. He's like silently the most talented musician of the entire band, but gets the least of the limelight. Okay, I'm getting really sidetracked here, so let's take on these wolves over here. They're kind of bugging me. There's this guy howling over here. There he is. Why isn't that wolf dying? Is Illusory Flames bugged? Yeah, I don't know. Alright. Well, that does not bode well for us for the Giants here. So let's go ahead and quick save before we go out there. Okay. Let's just make sure we're not going to get blindsided by a mammoth or something. Hey buddy, what's up? Ooh, that was really quick. I like it. I think I also am playing on easy. I was doing some mod testing on another profile. Let's put that back to a depth just so I can see how this stuff works in a real world situation. Yeah, I was trying to get through the Second Great War quest on a level 20 character. That's pretty much just heavy armor block and one-handed, and it wasn't working out so well. So I had to pump it way down because even though the player character was great, I was just slaying waves and waves of Thalmor soldiers on my own. The way that the quests in that mod are set up is that it's like the attackers versus the defenders, and as soon as the defenders' numbers, or as soon as one team's numbers dwindle to 0%, regardless of how well the player character does, that team loses, so to speak. Okay, do we have our Grand Soul Gem now? A Greater Soul from that giant? Well, that's a bummer, right? Do I have any enchanted weapons? No, I don't have any weapons at all. Oh well. I thought giants were Grand Souls. I guess not. I guess the mammoths are, though. Do I have any empty Grand Soul Gems? Oh man, I don't have any empty Soul Gems at all. Well, we're gonna go clear out a human encampment, so no biggie. Okay, halted stream camp, not halted steam camp. Okay, here we go. Let's throw down some night vision here too. Oh, that looks terrible. Never mind. We'll be fine. Hey, assholes. Oh my god, that guy moves, doesn't he? Okay, let's loot these guys all up, and then we'll head on inside. Alright, I hear somebody in here is halting some streams. Was it you? Could have taken her key, but I'm doing it all for the levels. The levels. The levels. Alright. This muffle effect is actually really powerful, isn't it? We don't even have to sneak and people don't even detect us. And I did switch it to adept, right? Are we just that much more powerful now? Let's check. Wow, okay. This is coming together better than I had hoped, actually. I had my worries about how viable this would be at Legendary when we were kind of running into some trouble in previous episodes, but it's looking pretty good now. We are on Adept right now, and we're kind of one-shotting everybody. Illusory Flames is actually pretty powerful too, I must say. 30% right off the bat is pretty great. Okay, we can all... Transmute mineral ore. And there's a star next to this one, like it's going to kick off a quest or something? Interesting. That's new to me. Let's go ahead and quick save real quick. See what that's all about. Spell tome, transmute mineral ore. Huh. I don't know what that asterisk was all about. Usually that means it's going to kick off, it's either going to add, like a map marker or something, or it's going to kick off a quest. But not this time. Some stuff that we can disenchant here. That's always good. Okay. So now, next on the agenda is just to go through here, gather up as much iron ore as Connor can possibly carry. He doesn't have a huge a stamina tank, so he probably can't carry a whole lot before he gets encumbered. I think there might be a smelter right outside. I hope there's a smelter right outside. So we can reduce all those to ingots. But first, yeah, I gotta go through and loot all this crap, and I'm not gonna make you watch that. So I'll cut the video and come back when we're ready to go. Okay, here we are in the forge area of Ryek's End. Not a place that Connor has spent a whole lot of time in the past. I have said that, or at least briefly, that I could see a devotee of a certain Daedric prince taking on smithing in order to keep better care of certain Daedric artifacts, such as like the ebony mail or the ebony blade. I'm not sure you can actually hone that, but definitely something like Mehrunes razor or or even Dawnbreaker. All that stuff can be smithed up, and a devotee of that Daedric prince would likely want to do everything that he could to make sure that that artifact was kept in tip-top shape. So I can see a character such as this taking on smithing in more of a roleplay vein. Oh, that's cool. I never noticed that vent up there over the smelter. That's a nice little touch. A lot of these indoor forges don't make a whole lot of sense, especially the ones that are like in caves with no ventilation, but yeah, that's cool. Anyway, we're here because there was no smelter outside of Halted Stream Camp. I was able to get a whole ton of iron ore, though, 52. I don't know if that's all of them. I'm not sure if that's complete, but that's pretty damn close. There are also other easy places to get lots of iron. I think Embershard Mine, which I believe we've already taken on, is one of them. But I think Halted Stream Camp is the biggest one for sure. Now that we have all of these, I wanted to walk through how to use this spell, just because there have been some viewers that have said to me that hearing the explanation on some of these spells has been very helpful for them. So I don't want to gloss over something that could potentially be helpful for somebody else. So let's go ahead and grab our transmute spell here. This is the transmute mineral ore spell that we just picked up the tome for. And what this does is it will look in your inventory and it will try to find a silver ore. If it finds a silver ore, it will transform it into a gold ore. If it doesn't find silver ore, it's going to look for iron ore, and if it finds one, it will transform that into silver ore. So basically it's a two-step process from iron to gold. From there you can take the iron ingots and fashion them into, I'm sorry, not the iron ingots, but the gold ingots, and fashion them into jewelry for super fast smithing gains. It makes a lot of sense for this character too, because the vast majority of what he's buying is empty soul gems, spell tomes, and magic training. And those vendors and trainers all accept jewelry for barter. So we can buy the stuff that we need to buy, replenish our gold stores by selling off enchanted rings, and then buying more stuff from them, and rinse and repeat. So, okay, let's go ahead and demonstrate how this works here. We have a very high alteration skill, so we're going to be able to cast this many times. Now, another thing I wanted to mention here is that certain gemstones that you might have in your inventory will make silver rings more valuable than gold, just a regular naked gold ring, which will increase your smithing skill even further. In order to not transmute silver ore, you would have to first transmute an iron ore into silver, and then you would have to remove the silver ore from your inventory, like put it in like a storage case or something. It takes a lot more work and a lot more effort than just transmuting everything at once. So you sacrifice a little bit of convenience for a speedier smithing increase, but for the purposes of this series, we've already boosted our progression so much that we're probably not going to need that. So I'm just going to transmute everything to gold. I'm going to keep casting this bad boy until it says I don't have any more ore to transmute up in the top left corner there. Okay, so we've blasted through all the iron ore and silver ore that we have, and we are left with nothing but gold ore. We should have 53 of them, if I counted correctly before. Oh no, 54. I don't know where that last one came from, but I'll take it. So yeah, now we have to reduce these all to ingots, which it takes 2 gold ore for 1 gold ingot. So we should be able to get, what, 27 ingots out of that? Okay, our smelting is done. Smelter? I barely even knew her. Did I make that joke already? I don't remember. I'll probably make it again before this series is over. And look forward to it again once we start focusing on the smithing tree in another series. Okay, so I am all done with the smelting. I have 27 gold ingots, just as prescribed. Now here, I wouldn't just say go ahead and make all the rings. If you have the ability, sort by value, because that is going to give you the most bang for your buck as far as smithing skill. The more valuable the item that you smith, the more skill you're going to get added to your smithing skill. So we do have a flawless diamond in there, which is great. We have an emerald that we can make an emerald ring out of. Sapphire for a gold sapphire ring, and then just regular rings for the rest of it. Now here, the rings are less valuable than the necklace, but since we're making 2 of them, that equals 150 value. 75 times 2 is 150, which is more than the gold necklace by itself. So always do the rings, you'll get more of a progression from those than you will from the necklace. Alright, so we got our rings all smithed up. I missed the actual final tally on where our smithing skill ended up, but it was pretty up there. Let's see what we got. Now your mileage is going to vary on this because I'm running boosted skill progressions here, but this is the fastest way to level smithing, that I found anyway, if you're going to go for that. Okay, we're focusing on Magicka until we get to 750 base. Looks like we leveled up twice there, which is great. Where did our smithing skill end up at? 69, alright. I'm not going to make any jokes about that. After the smelter joke, I probably have lost all credibility, all leniency for bad jokes. Alright, I'm not actually going to put any perks into this. I was just using it for the perk points itself and for leveling up. Let's see where our illusion skill is at. We're at 44, so we can take some stuff here. Let's see. Commanding Presence was the big one that we wanted. This Imposing Presence was something that maybe had some juice in it. But I think this branch was the one that we were going to focus on mostly. So what we have now is that it's going to affect all of our allied minions within 40 feet, and then this field within 40 feet. It's going to add 20% attack damage and 20% chance of critical strikes for any allied creatures and people that it affects, which is awesome. That's going to make our conjurations much more powerful. At this level, 20% is quite a bit, so that's nothing to sneeze at. Also, any affected minions will also have armor increased by 80 points and magic resistance increased by 20. You know what? Our minions are getting stronger than even Connor is. That's kind of awesome. Okay, so in another 16 illusion levels, we will be able to take Imperious Splendor, which makes our Commanding Presence and Crown of the False King, which are the two effects that we were given by taking the 2 perks below. They're twice as powerful as long as you remain above 75% health. Okay, so that's great. As long as we're letting our minions take the front, which we got to get better at in our own gameplay, honestly. Or at least I got to get better at. We're going to have some super followers here. It's going to be great. And then at level 80, when struck by a weapon, may compel a nearby ally affected by Commanding Presence to engage your attacker, dealing 250 extra attack damage for 5 seconds. Okay, so this also encourages us to stay close to our minions. If we do manage to get hit by a melee attack, or I don't know if weapon counts as a bow as well. If we get hit by something physical, it looks like we're gonna have our dudes come save us with a vengeance. It looks like. Okay, we have one more perk to take here. I'm really thinking about this Quiet Before the Storm thing and taking on more of a sneaky presence here. I don't know how that's going to work with our loud minions following us around. But I think maybe the best thing to do is just going to be to bank the perk right now. Bank the perk and call an end to the episode. How about that? So yeah, that's it. We leveled up a few times. That's awesome. I showed some tricks that I like to use for sort of power leveling, smithing. And oh yeah, I didn't actually discuss the next step, which would be to use all these crappy little soul gems that we have filled and enchant all these rings that we have. That will help power level enchanting as well, and our speech skill once we sell all these things off. So yeah, that's it. That's sort of a trick that I use. It's kind of my power leveling scheme that I use for some of the crafting stuff. It helps power level smithing, alteration, enchanting, and speech all in one go. It gets a little tedious, but honestly it's not as tedious, or it's not any more tedious than, say, crafting 170 iron daggers or leather bracers to power level just smithing. There's a little bit of a wrinkle to it, and it affects a whole bunch of different skill trees. So if you're looking to power level, which I know a whole lot of role players aren't really into that kind of thing, but it's a nice sort of way to boost skill levels sort of outside of a roleplay session, to get a character caught up or to fill in some missing perks or things like that you might have that you really want your character to have but can't kind of find a roleplay reason to do it. That's some behind the scenes stuff that you can take advantage of. Or, you know, if you want to just play, you kind of burn out on role playing and you just want to see how you can exploit the systems in the game. That's one way of doing it. I wouldn't really consider that an exploit. It's kind of just an efficient leveling mechanism, I would say. But yeah, that's it for this episode. Going forward, we're going to continue to focus on illusion, I believe. We're going to try to close out the Mage's College quest line. We're going to take care of all that so that we can open up master level spells and see how those fit in. As I said before, I also plan on focusing at least a little bit on things like Bound Battle Axe. We do have that spell, we just never used it. Same with Bound Bow, and we're going to see what kind of synergies we can find with those, because obviously we're giving up some spell sword buffs and some concentration spell buffs that we already had. But I think there are ways to make those viable. And they should be included under a Conjuration Summoner guide, I would say. There's some fun roleplay possibilities there that I don't want to ignore. So we have that to look forward to. But yeah, I think we're marching toward the end of this series already, which is great. After this series, I want to focus on the necromancy branches of the Conjuration perk tree, which are the ones that we didn't touch here. Pretty much all the ones that we didn't touch here are necromancy related. I'm actually really looking forward to Bone Collector. I've done Raise Dead builds before, and that was a lot of fun, especially with the March of Oblivion perk, which allows you to raise a whole bunch of undead. The level of enemies that you can raise with Ordinator is higher than what you can in vanilla, which allows you to raise more powerful zombies than you were able to before, which is also really awesome. But I'm really excited for the Bone Collector stuff, constructing skeletons and things like that. For a couple of reasons. One, because I've never done it before, but also because I am looking for synergy with an alchemy type character for my Chemical Whispers roleplay playthrough, which is still on the way. I'm focusing a little more and more on that as time goes on, actually. My mod list is just about completed for that, and I have a roadmap of probably the first 3 or 4 chapters that I can follow on that. And I'm looking to add some of this stuff. CACO is great about adding alchemical ingredients that you can harvest from enemies, including humanoid enemies. So I think that goes hand in hand with being able to harvest these bones off of these enemies and using those bones to create minions. And also, while an alchemist character is kind of tinkering around in these dead bodies, he kind of figures out how to raise some of them from the dead and use them as his minions as well. I think that's kind of a cool little wrinkle there. So I'm looking forward to exploring this with you all and finding some synergies there with alchemy and some other stuff, and seeing what interesting things we can find there so that I can add it to that series, which is coming up. So yeah, once we're done with illusion, we're going to focus on restoration, and then we're going to see what kind of stuff that we can find with the bound bow and the bound battle axe. See if we can get sneak in here somewhere, and a lot of other fun stuff. And then we also have to switch over to legendary and clear a few dungeons and see how all this is stacking up. So a lot of fun stuff coming up. But yeah, until then, take care, and I'll see you next time.